And it's our ego that holds on to the hurt because we come from infinite. We are all about love. We're connected by love. And our whole goal to be here is to be in love with life, in love with ourselves, and have love for each one of us and share it together, like as an exchange. And the moment we keep holding on to all of these things that we perceived as being hurt by, we're carrying them for a long time and they get weighing us down and they keep us, we're still dragging them. 10 years later, we're still dragging that story. We're still holding that story when the incident is long gone.
It's okay to let people go. That's really important for everyone to hear, is you have permission to set boundaries around the time that you spend with someone, whether that is no time at all or a lot of time or somewhere in the middle. You have permission to do that. Good morning, everyone. And hey, Nicola, how are you today?
Good morning, Wendy. I'm doing really well. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. I'm super excited.
Yeah, super. Okay, I want to introduce Nicola. Nicola Carroll is a registered massage therapist. She's an intuitive energy medicine healer and a spiritual alchemist. And today we thought holidays are coming. It's end of the year. It's a good time to reflect on, do some work on forgiveness. Nicola has quite an amazing story on how she has worked through forgiveness herself in her own life, and she's going to share it with us. We hope that it helps you. If you can take any little nuggets away to help you to move towards forgiveness, both forgiving yourself and forgiving anyone in your life who has harmed you in any way. So, Nicola.
So, yes. So, forgiveness is quite a thing for ourselves. And a lot of people really just don't understand how they can forgive people that have wronged them.
Mm.
And I remember many years ago watching Oprah Winfrey, and she had a couple on that had had a tragic incident in their lives where they lost their son. And the couple had said their son was murdered, actually. And the couple had said, "We forgive the person who's done this." And so many people had reacted and saying, like, "How can you possibly do this? Like, how could you ever forgive someone?" And myself included, I was thinking, how do you do that? And I always pondered that because it ingrained in my mind, how would anyone ever do that when you've been hurt to that depth of, in your heart?
Mhm.
And many years later, I had gone through a time in my life where I was fighting with my husband at the time. And it got pretty ugly. There was a lot of things. Marriage is not an easy task to be in, and a lot of us aren't necessarily really prepared to be the person that we should be in a marriage. And it leads to a lot of different things. We had many incidences of tragedy through the relationship. And at this one particular time, with the fighting, I just became an ugly person. And every day I just didn't even enjoy who I was being. And I knew in my heart, this is not who I am. Like, I'm tired of the fighting. And I had gone through a program, and they had called to, do some coaching with me. And at one point, they were saying they needle you a little bit to start to bring up the things that we think we're okay with, but really it's underneath us, and they needle you to kind of bring that to the surface. And during this one particular conversation, they were, "Oh, you're not ready to, or there's something with your marriage." And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Well, would you like me to help coach you through that?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." So the woman that I was dealing with, my coach, was helping me work through this. And she's like, "Okay, so you need to call your husband up, your ex-husband, and you need to tell him that you've been making him wrong so that you could be right." And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. There's no way I can do that right now because he needs to suffer. He's done this, 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 and this.
Mhm.
And she's like, "Oh, then you're not ready." And I'm like, and it brought up a lot of emotion. I was very much in that same emotion that I had been in as she was talking to me. And so I said, "No, you know what? Then obviously I'm not ready. Goodbye." Okay. So the following day, I woke up and I was really angry that next morning. Like, immediately, I was aware that I was angry and, dealing through that with my day. The next morning, again, I woke up and I was even angrier. This happened for a week. Every single morning I woke up, I just had this anger that was surfacing, and I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it again. So I called her up and I said, okay, I can't stand this anger that keeps showing up. I'm ready. So again, she prompted me to say, well, you're going to, write a letter. You're going to say all the things that you need to say to them and say, I'd like to forgive you for your part in our marriage and the breakup. And I want you to know that we need to work together so that for the sake of our son, that we could be amicable and blah, blah, blah. And it was really hard to choke those words down, but I did. I wrote out what I needed to say. And it took me, quite a while to write it out and have the courage to even be able to say the words. And at the time, we were not getting along. We weren't even talking. So I had a very small window of when I would be able to make this phone call to this person. And you couldn't do it through email. You had to speak directly. So either phone call or face to face. And on that day, I remember making that time. I pulled over before I went to pick up my son and made the phone call. It rang and rang and rang. And then as those moments, I'm getting anxious and I can feel all of this, nervousness coming up and, anxiety more or less. And then it goes to the answering machine. I'm like, darn, no, I can't do this. So, I love how the universe works because it really does work in mysterious ways for bringing when we're ready, the time will be there and the time will be right. And so again, the next day I had to mull it over, go over my words. And then the whole time I'm going through what I'm going to say that whole day, the next day. Again, I get that moment. I pull over the side of the road before picking my son up and I make the phone call. And again, it rings and rings and rings and rings. And again, I'm nervous and I'm getting, antsy and going through, okay, how am I going to say this? And again, goes to his answering machine. So again, I was like, no, I want to get this over with. Again, I had to go through those moments. I'm mulling it over, going through the words. The very next day, third day, three times the charm. And I make the phone call. And again, it brings up those feelings and he answers the phone. And then all of a sudden I had to actually say what I had to say. And so I said, hello. And of course, there wasn't a lot back. So just basically said hi. And I was like, well, I would like to say to you that I would like to tell you that I've been making you wrong so that I could look right. I'd like to forgive you for your part in our the failed marriage, and that hopefully we can be more amicable so that for the benefit of our raising our son together would help us, so that we can not project this to him. And as I said all of that, and then all of a sudden I was finished my piece and I was sitting there in silence and waiting, waiting, waiting. And in this moment of this silence, there was an exchange of energy that blew me out of the water. It was like all of a sudden I had taken all of this that I was holding and I handed it over. And all of a sudden I was just free. And it was such an incredible exchange that before he even spoke, this all had transpired. And I received this feeling of like, I'm free, just like that. And then he was grumpy and basically said, well, okay. But it didn't matter because I now handed over all the things that I no longer was willing to hold. And the freedom that I received in that moment made me go, wow, forgiveness is for me. It had nothing to do with them. It's literally to relieve me of the things that I was holding and created that chastity of suffering because I was the one that was saying he needs to suffer. It's not up to me to decide who gets to suffer or not. We all have our own things and we create our own suffering by holding on to all of those things that are actually a memory of our past because it's already past. And it's like we want to drop those things so that we don't keep carrying them. I had an analogy where if I hold a weight and I'm going to hold this weight up for, a few minutes, well, I can do it easily. But if I have to hold this for a day, 2 days, 3 days, it's going to get super heavy and I'm going to be burdened with holding this. And that's the same thing that we do when we hold on to hurts. And it's our ego that holds on to the hurt because we come from infinite. We are all about love. We're connected by love. And our whole goal to be here is to be in love with life, in love with ourselves, and have love for each one of us, and share it together, like as an exchange. And the moment we keep holding on to all of these things that we perceived as being hurt by, we're carrying them for a long time, and they get weighing us down, and they keep us, we're still dragging them. 10 years later, we're still dragging that story. We're still holding that story when the incident is long gone. And we have to be able to just let them go like butterflies, and let them be free, so that we're not, again, we're weighing ourselves down with all the things that we feel we still need to have to carry. And the incident is past. And forgiveness, when we have hurt, we want to forgive that person as well, release them, and send them only love, because they are probably, if they're the ones, pushing a lot of stuff out within them, they're hurting. And we wish them the best life ever, but it frees us to still live and continue on and be our best self, basically.
Mhm. I love that. I love that frees us. I love the metaphor of the weight. And when you forgive, you take a little bit of the weight off, and it opens up room and space for joy and love and happiness. Because when all you've got is this heavy weight over your head filled with all kinds of wrongs and hurts and pains and disappointments, there's no room for the lightness. There's no room for the joy, for the happiness. So did you feel more joyful? Did you feel lighter? And was it instant, or was it something that you had to, go back to over the past several years?
So in that moment, it was absolutely instantaneous,
Mm,
and I was so freed, and I felt so much joy pouring into my life. And going forward, I just recognized how much happier I was, and I was able to just look at things, and it's like, when we are the ones that are creating that, I call it a chastity, because it really is. We're binding ourselves into
mm,
this, like, restrictive space, and not being expansive. And when we're restricting ourselves, like, there isn't any room for love to come in, because you're not even being loving to yourself. And that's the point. It's about love yourself enough to not carry that, and not carry that burden, and not allow anybody else or any other thing outside of us to make us feel like we are not just about love, that we are worthy to be loved, and not carry everything else that is thrown at us. Like, it's, I mean, we practice it every day as new things come up, and different situations come at, and other people say things. I could either, as humans, we're meaning making machines. We have to make meaning out of something, instead of it being, maybe it's just they're having a bad day and they're lashing out, but why do I need to make it about me, or make it into something else? It's heard another really great analogy about it is, if I have spectacles on and my spectacles have scratches, then everything I see out of them have scratches. My world is scratched. So, it's not that we need a new horizon or something else that's going to shift us into something. It's our perspective needs to be cleared, so we don't have those scratches that we're looking out on. We just need new spectacles, so a different perception on how to
mhm,
view things, and to be more gentle with ourselves, and allow that joy to come in.
mhm. And I like what you said, "I've been making you wrong so that I could be right." And we all know what that's like. We will do just about anything to be right. So when you weren't right anymore, or he wasn't right anymore, or nobody was wrong, it just gave you the freedom to be. That's what it sounds
Absolutely.
like to me.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what it is. It's the freedom to be me, which is what? It's love. And come from a place of love, be more forgiving to myself, be more mindful of, like, how I'm going to take care of myself, but it's exactly it. And sometimes people just don't know how to be when all they've been being is horrible to themselves or
Mhm.
to another, just because, we want to prove that they did something wrong and we didn't.
I hear, when I'm working with clients, "How could you even ask me to forgive them? They did this, it's wrong, and they need to apologize to me." Now, why is looking at the situation that way so detrimental to all of us. And we've all been there and we've all done it. But why is that so detrimental?
Because it's really about, we can only be controlling of our own environment within ourselves and
Mm,
how we perceive things. And and you're right, we all get hurt by people, by their words or things that they do to us. But again, we are not the judge. We can only be mindful of how we conduct ourselves, the words that we want to use. And when we have those moments, it's okay for a short period of time to go, that really hurt me. But if we can say it to ourselves, that hurt me. What is it about me that I'm feeling that I'm not this gracious, whole self, that I feel that anybody could hurt me? Because again, it's how we are responding to information that we're receiving. And yes, sometimes that can be harsh. Again, it's from somebody else's perspective that we don't know. They're not being mindful in a lot of ways. And we are. And, we can't, like, I could lash out and say, all I can say is, those words hurt me. And at this moment, I can either choose to be super angry and all over you about it, or I can go within and recognize, hold on a minute here, I'm a good person. I feel like, I didn't deserve that. However, I'm going to forgive you so that I don't have to hold on to this part for days and days and days. And
mm,
that's really what it is. It's being in those moments to recognize, how long do I want to hold on to this anger for? Because that anger is only the way I'm going to be feeling. Do I want to feel like anger today?
mhm.
Or do I choose to let that go because that was just an incident that happened? I don't want to hold anger with myself, with anybody, because if I'm holding anger, I am in anger and I
And it's
don't
an
want.
ongoing process. It's not
Absolutely.
a one and done. It starts with a decision now to bring forgiveness into your life. And one person at a time, one incident at a time, one you at a time, things that you have done that maybe haven't been perfect and that you regret, and forgive one small thing at a time. And then you lighten the weight that you're carrying. And the goal is to not be carrying any weight at all. And that is enlightenment.
Yes.
And I'm not there. I have moments of enlightenment. I do the work every day, as do you, Nicola. And it's cool. Like it really is cool. But if you want to get a little bit more practical, how can we tell if we have actually forgiven that person
So
and
great
whether there's
question.
more work to be done or not?
Great question, Wendy. I'll bring it back to the body. So I've been a massage therapist for over 20 years, and everything that we experience is stored in our body. So often, what will happen if somebody, the old saying, who's causing you the pain in your neck? Or I have a pain in your neck. Oh, yeah, who's causing that? More, if I ask my clients that, they will tell me. They'll tell me what the situation is or what the person is, because ultimately, when we store any of this anger, it's stored somewhere in our body and we will have
Mm,
body pain from it. So if you are somebody who is experiencing a lot of illnesses or pains and things like that, you know, outside of the norm of what we call aging, but if suddenly you start to develop something, there's probably a psychological reason that you've created by holding anger or something somewhere in the body. So the body is a great way to also tell us what's going on, right? I mean, think about it. Sometimes when we get overstressed, it's either going to hit us on our shoulders or our low back is a big place that most people start to, oh, I feel, oh yeah, because I'm going through a lot of stress. You see how that translates down, but it can be simply just, when we hold anger, it can show up somewhere. Not to mention, how do you feel every day? Right? If you wake
mhm,
up and you have anger, you probably have not dealt with something that needs to actually some attention. Because again, if you're free and we're giving love out to everyone, like even, if we did a little exercise where you imagine right now a visualization where you imagine a person or something that's causing you this grief. And if we closed our eyes and saw that for a moment and actually released them and said, you know what, I forgive you, or I'm sending love to you, love and light to you, it's going to make you feel better because you're feeling like you're being more of a beautiful state of more beautiful person as opposed to throwing these daggers and other things, right? And then if you
mm,
see that person that's hurt you, and you give them a hug, even a virtual hug. Just give them a hug and say, I feel for you. I'm sending love to you. Because again, we never know what is prompting that person's situation to lash out. We don't know if that person is waking up and they're in a state of a more of a troubled life than what we even are aware of. And so people will only give out what they're feeling. And so if people are giving these daggers, or I call it, sending daggers out, well, that's something that is coming from within them. They can't be feeling very happy about themselves.
Mm,
So we want to send love and light to them to help them and forgive them and hope that they only have a good life, regardless. When we can send out more beauty, even to those that have hurt us, you still remain beautiful inside. And that's the key. And that's the gold, is being your own beautiful self as much as you can possibly be. And always just send love and light. And you'll just feel lighter, and you'll just feel more in love. And you won't be carrying these heavy burdens of, I need to make sure I'm angry at you now. Right. Because
mm,
it's almost like the thing that we're upset about, if you hold it and send it back, you're just the same. So we don't want to be that way because we know it's not nice. We don't love it, right? And it's all
mhm.
about really coming back to a state of being loving, first and foremost to ourselves. Because when we are in that state, we're going to be able to emanate that more to our outside self and the world around us.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is I'm releasing you of the burden of paying me back for something.
Yeah,
You're canceling a debt. You're
yeah,
saying, you can't make me feel at peace. I can
yes.
make me feel at peace. And that's empowering versus disempowering. I think that when you haven't done the work around forgiveness and you have those sad feelings, those angry feelings, those regretful feelings, disappointment, it's disempowering to you. And
Mhm.
by learning how to forgive, because this is a learned practice, you empower yourself to, as you said, Nicola, receive joy, receive love. And that can only be a great thing. Now, you mentioned, you know, listening to your body. What about listening to your heart?
Absolutely. Your heart's a big thing. And, when we get in turmoil, whether we've suffered a broken heart, what happens physically to your body is the sac of fluid around your heart, called the pericardium, it will literally constrict. So even if you're physically experiencing a broken heart for any reason, that physical contraction around your heart is going to constrict it. Now, for your body, that's how it protects us. It's like,
Mm-hmm,
oh, we better form this barrier. We got to constrict to keep it safe. But what it's doing is it will stay like that until we actually tell our body, it's okay, body. I've forgiven them. I forgive us for putting us through this as well, because this is how we're going to, receive things, right? We're bringing it into ourselves.
mm-hmm,
So we want to bring it as kind as we can. And it's about really taking those moments to be mindful and be kind to us first, right? Because
mm-hmm.
it can be a nasty world out there, right? Lots coming at us. So when we can just internalize for ourselves first and remember, who am I? Who do I really want to be? I really want to just be loving. I really want to just enjoy life and have harmonious relationships. I don't want to be in a fight all the time or flight, because we all know that is not a fun place to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it is about being mindful and recognizing, what am I feeling right now? And we can do that by releasing the body in different practices. Like yoga is fabulous for that. Yoga will, and the more you practice it, will actually start to help you release things as well. It creates a space where, instead of going from 0 to 100, like in anger, it gives us that time to go, wait a minute, let's think about this. Why do I want to actually, be nasty back?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What is the reason for that? That's just an ego thing, because ultimately that's all that is. We think it's a protective device, which it is, but at the same time, it's not, because we want to protect us first and foremost, right? But be mindful to say, I'm about love. And, and if that person doesn't receive this, then we want to shift away from that. And maybe we don't have that kind of people in our life anymore. And this is how we actually mature and grow, maybe it's about ebb and flowing. Maybe I need to move through this, or it's time to move through because now I've had some new growth. I've matured in my perspective, and now I can shift and travel in a different path. And I think for most people, life is about, it's a journey about the experiences that we've had and how are we shaping our lives to be able to roll through life up and down the hills, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can take the bumpy road, or we can try to take the slide, the easiest path. Remember, it's about using the path of least resistance for ourselves as well.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you said about it's okay to let people go. That's really important for everyone to hear is you have permission to set boundaries around the time that you spend with someone, whether that is no time at all or a lot of time or somewhere in the middle. You have permission to do that. And forgiveness doesn't mean, oh, forgive and forget. It doesn't mean, oh, okay, well, we'll just forget about all that and we'll start over again, no problem. It can mean that, but it can also mean I have empowered myself to tell my truth, speak my truth, and now I'm going to create boundaries around that relationship that may only mean spending 1 or 2 times a year with someone. It may mean if you have kids and you go to their recital and their father is there, you need to spend some time with their father, maybe sitting side by side to watch your child's performance. But it may mean only doing that. It can mean a million different things, but you have to know what feels right and is right for you.
Absolutely.
And so you mentioned the body, really important to pay attention to your body. And Nicola does this work with her clients all of the time. It's important to feel and understand your heart. And then another way to know whether you still have work to do is are you still ruminating about him or her or it, the problem? If you're still having negative thoughts about the situation, or you're feeling sick about it, or you're still thinking ill thoughts about the person, there's some work to still be done.
Absolutely, there is.
So it's a mind, body, heart connection that we're all working towards being aware of and in tune with. And it's fun work because as you start to be more connected and aware of who you are, as Nicola mentioned, just things get lighter. So when you're working with people, Nicola, and you see that they're still ruminating and still, you can say you're doing this and you've forgiven, and you can be thinking, hell no, I have not forgiven that person. I can't stand him or her. I will never spend any time with him or her. Well, that's not going to work. We can't trick ourselves. So, what are some practical things and steps that people can do to work towards forgiving that person? You mentioned writing a letter, making a phone call, or meeting face to face. I have one other suggestion, something that I write out myself. I write out, I resent you for, I appreciate you for. And it can be, I resent you for, I resent you for, I resent you for, on and on and on. I appreciate you for, I appreciate you for, I appreciate you for, on and on and on. And bring that to the conversation and invite them to do the same if you can. Every situation's different, every conversation is different. What are a couple great places for our people listening to start? How can someone start forgiving someone who they just can't stand for what they've done to them, the harm they've caused, and they think this is impossible?
Yeah, it's a really hard space at times to actually climb out of when we get
Mm,
ourselves and we keep digging and digging. The more that we are throwing those stones of what we're accusing them of, or things that have made us feel this way, first again, and I love that idea about doing how do I feel about this, or and now how do I feel about it, like the resentment, and then what I do love about you. Again, go back to yourself and write out for yourself and really notice how much anger you are generating,
mm-hmm,
because that is keeping you, it's creating this ball of energy that seems to be where your solar system is sitting in a way, right? You want to get that solar system out of the way and actually come back again into your own self, into your own heart. And it is a lot of work to do. And often people don't actually even know where to turn because all they've known is how to be reactive and angry because someone wronged them. It is, you have to honestly seek out help because
Mm.
there's no way, if you don't know, you're never going to find what you don't know. Right. So you have to find ways to work and do the great work, like you mentioned, Wendy, that we all do. But if you're not led to that, how do you know where to find it?
Hmm.
And that's kind of, I think, where, the biggest thing is to start to help people understand that you do not like look at how you're being. Like, first
Mm.
and foremost, how are you being? How do you really feel? Because the more that you are feeling that anger, that's who you're being, is in that anger. You'll never be able to move through something if you still sit in that same sense of anger, because that's just the same thing you're generating as your solar system. So doing the great work is really going within and starting to, maybe you read more things, and it could be a variety of things. The yoga is fabulous. There's a lot of reading that you can do within the yoga that actually also helps with the mind work as well, the spiritual work. And it doesn't mean that you're religious, but being spiritual is coming back to that place of coming from a place of being love. And ultimately, this is how we move through life, is being love. And you have to start to give your back your own worthiness, and that's where we're losing our power, is the more that we're lashing out, we've let go of our own power to be kind to ourselves first and
Mm.
foremost, to be loving to ourselves. And then we can start to look at, even if we can put them completely out of our mind for a day and
Mm.
not have them interfere in our day, because that is doing the work as well. As I'm no longer going to allow that little bubble or them to break my bubble of me enjoying my day to day, right? And that's another way. But you have to seek out help, especially if you don't know any of the steps to help yourself. There is a lot of books. Eckhart Tolle, there was a book that was called The Power of Now. And that
Mm.
book was really helpful because when those moments when all you're doing is being in your head and you're going over, oh, he's this and blah, 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 and you're driving, you don't even know where you're driving to because you're not present. So one of the things, and something that I found very helpful, was to take a stone or something, and or if you're driving, on your steering wheel, most steering wheels will have the emblem of the vehicle you drive. So if you're driving and you're trailing and spinning in your head, look at that, or anything. And I used to I had an H. I had drove a Honda at the time, and there was an H on my steering wheel. And so anytime I would find that I'm rolling through in my head, I would touch the steering wheel immediately and I'd say, oh, look at how nice and shiny this is. I'm bringing
Mm.
myself back to the present so that I can let all of those thoughts go. And just like with meditation, when your mind wanders, bring it back. And I would have to do this several times so that I would stay present. And that was the only way initially that I started to learn how to be aware, be present, stop those trains of thoughts where I'm going to start being in this cycle of degeneration, really, right? Just breaking things down. So, and then doing the work and then coming back to the place within me, which is love. Like, I can honestly say I have no malice, and I only send out love to my ex, for all of those reasons. Like, those are so far in the past. We're all
Mm.
human. Each and every one of us are human. And so, as one person is suffering inside themselves, they're going to maybe be an ugly person unless they do the work and then just come out of it with love. And that's really what the balance is it how much do you love yourself and how much are you going to let the love out? And that's where we're in this struggle with our ego and love. And that's really all it is, ultimately. But you have to do the work. And if you don't know where to find how to do the work, then you do have to reach out to someone like yourself or myself, where I can help with different healings and different ways to coach people through those things. Like having a shiny stone is another great one. I have this awesome stone where, you just hold it
Yeah.
and you can in your hand and keep it in your pocket anytime you feel like, you're having a moment of anxiety or I
I
can't.
have a little shiny stone.
Yeah.
Mine is joy.
Oh, it even says joy on it. I
Yeah,
love that.
mine is joy, and it's a little shiny stone too that depending what situation I'm headed to that day, this little stone may be in my pocket. Yeah, it works. It does bring me back to the moment, to the now. We are spiritual beings connected, and we are all in each our own physical body, but we're all connected across the world. And I like the way you were talking about the solar system that's inside your body that's blocking, it's almost blocking the energy, the good energy that you can have flowing through yourself all of the time from others to others. It just can continually flow. But we block that when we don't do this work and learn to forgive. And it is a practice and it is work, but it's worthwhile work. If you can just lighten the load a little bit, makes a huge difference in your life. And you'll have just a little peak and a little bit more room for some more joy and happiness. And you'll say, this feels good. And then the snowball starts to roll and it gets bigger and it gets bigger and it gets bigger. And you start to let go and release of the negative emotions that are surrounding you not being able to forgive. And you'll be able to bring in all the good in the world. And hey, isn't that what we all want?
Absolutely.
Mm,
Yeah. There's a number of other things that you could do if for people who might be really stuck in how do they get out of that dialogue. You can choose a mantra that you can find. And if you're having those moments, just repeat that mantra.
mm,
There's a great one that I learned with Access Consciousness is all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. And if you repeat
mm,
that 10 times in the morning or 10 times whenever you're having a struggle, all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. And there is many times I have just had that on speed dial in my head, and I'll
mm,
be I say it out loud. Sometimes I sing it in my car, and it is a way to just be focusing back that all of life is, joy and ease and glory. And if it's not, just repeat because you'll start to generate that energy around it, and that's what you're creating. Remember,
mhm,
like first it's a thought before it's a form. So everything that you're thinking is what you're creating. Why don't
mhm,
we just create something a little more gentle for ourselves, a little more nicer for ourselves?
mm,
And I think that if you can't find a mantra, like maybe if you believe in your angels, ask for your guardian angel to help you with that day. Like many times I've reached out, and the thing with angels, you do have to call them. They're always there, but because we have free will, they can't interfere. But the moment you call on them, and you will start to realize how much more safe you feel. But again, it's wherever you choose to put your beliefs. What you've got to
mhm,
find something that you can hang on to. There's many books, like there's a Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, is a fabulous book for people that might be looking for some help, just to return to love, because people, I think, have forgotten it is just about love and
mhm,
loving ourselves first and foremost. It can only be loving that self first and foremost. And if you've gone down that spiral and you just don't feel like there's any love in the world, I do remember a point in time in my life, I thought it's all negative. The world is just negative, and that's all I saw
mm,
because that's what I believed. So sometimes we have to shift that belief system and recognize, no, there really is love in the world. Even right
mhm.
now, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, but I still know there's a greater presence of love than I do negativity. And so you just need to find that and find someone to help you shift that little bit and go back into that, finding where that love is for you.
Yeah, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
It has. And it is all about love.
Hmm.
It really is. And what I want for all of you is just to feel a little bit more love, a little bit more joy, a little bit more happiness in your day. And we hope this has helped.
Yeah.
Nicola, it's been just a pleasure speaking with you today. We're going to do this again for sure. And do you have any final words, a message, anything
Yeah.
that you'd like to share with our audience?
Absolutely. So there's this beautiful gift called Waves of Kindness. And this is from Infinite Healing. And so the beautiful is I can share this with you, and you can do this for yourselves. You can do this for anybody. So as I call in waves of kindness, I invoke waves of kindness to myself first, because I can never give it without first receiving it. And so I fully receive waves of kindness, waves of kindness. And now I send out waves of kindness to all of our viewers, to you, Wendy, and all of your family, waves of kindness and waves of kindness. And just notice if you feel that little bit of sense of calm and peace as I send that out to you. And this is available for anybody at all through anywhere. So ask for waves of kindness to come to you, and you can just say invoke waves of kindness and then let it come and travel over you. And I send that out to each and every one of you.
I invoke waves of kindness.
Yeah, or I call in waves of kindness. Am I willing to receive waves of kindness? Am I willing to receive and then send that out? And yes.
I'm willing to receive waves of kindness.
So you have to ask yourself if you're willing to receive, because same thing, like many people will say, I'd love to win the lottery, but actually, would they actually be willing to receive that? There's a difference. And even you'll notice if I say, am I willing to receive? You may start to feel that little bit more calm. So it's always asking, am I willing to receive?
Am
Am
I
I willing
willing
to
to
receive
receive
waves of kindness?
waves of kindness?
And just notice if that's a little more settling. Again, getting in tune with your own body will, is vital as well.
I love that. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today, Nicola. And where can everyone find you?
Thank you, Wendy. It's been awesome to have this conversation with you, and I really enjoy helping people as well. But you can find me at rmtnicola@gmail.com or on Instagram at Nicola_Carroll. RMT, and that's NiColaCarroll.
And we'll link all that to this podcast so that you guys can all hear on YouTube, and we'll have all the links. Thanks for being here today, everyone. And I hope that you got something out of this conversation. I hope you can begin to forgive yourself, begin to forgive others, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, self-healing. Thank you so much, Wendy. It was a pleasure.